resting outside of Targos. I feel like the way I described it, that perhaps you were next to the wall as it kind of continued out to make Targos's harbor. So I think you all have like shelter from the battlements that remain from Targos, while also not necessarily being as close to Targos as that you might risk Durgar coming into you. But in the long run, as you two prepare for your night here, do you all have any thoughts how you would be weathering this night?
I think, like you said, trying to stay, get some, protection maybe just from the elements from some of the battlements, but um, I don't know if we can try to essentially dig into the snow a bit and try to essentially hide ourselves, conceal ourselves for the rest of the night, get some or like some sort of camouflage, trying to get through the night. I think we definitely need the rest or to try and get through the night before we can kind of continue. But have any more specific ideas on that?
We could definitely move some of this stone around a little bit, and hopefully that'll help to protect us a little bit more from the elements as far as the winds and everything. Um, then we could probably start a small little. We can start afterwards. We can put together a little small fire. I'll put that together first. I mean, it's not like anyone's going to be upset that we use the stone from these buildings anyway.
So, if you go to start and collect stones from some of the rubble, that is perfectly acceptable. As far as things go, were you actually out towards like the end of some of these battlements? You would be out on the ice over the actual lake of Merdualden, so it would be a little bit more difficult to simply get snow, but you could certainly collect snow as well. So if you're using those two building materials to try to shelter yourselves of taking some rubble from the stones and trying to use some snow as kind of the cement to keep things together and stable. You all can certainly build a shelter like that. I would say, as far as things go, that will be kind of the impetus to introduce Fen, as you essentially will see from whatever building you were kind of destroyed within. You can start to see these people who seem to be kind of collecting stonework and start to be actually kind of constructing a new shelter along this northwestern wall of Targos. I think that will be the initial sign that these aren't simply the Durgar who took part in the initial ambush of Targos, as well as the kind of subversion of its defenses while the dragon was attacking. So I think you kind of have that initial draw to remind you that there are friendly folk about, even as you're kind of coming out of a traumatic experience of effectively Targos has everyone is killed who did not make it out of the town in the initial fleeing, including the town master who basically very Titanic like fled, essentially like dressed up as a woman when they were sending women and children to get to safety. So as you see these figures collecting stone and snow, one of them being a shorter figure, about three or so feet tall, kind of cloaked in winter weather gear, and another one, I think Brennick's like 5'10", who's kind of walking around in cold weather gear. So you're watching these two figures construct a pretty rudimentary shelter. What are you thinking, Fen?
I'll call out in greeting. My name is Fen Farstrider, and I have been searching for answers to the problems that plague this land. You look to be competent adventurers, and was looking to join the party.
Melissa looks up at him and says, "You're more than welcome. We can use the help. Though I'm not sure how long you've been out here. These lands are quite treacherous and sometimes can be very challenging."
I barely escaped from Benjandar myself.
I do hope the others can hold out or at least get away. My name is Alexis, by the way. It's nice to meet you. And your name is, you said?
Fen Farstrider. Pleasure is mine.
Can you describe to them what Fen looks like? Keeping in mind that most of you all currently, as long as you are not in shelter, you very much look pretty similar, as most people have the same, like, sealskin cold weather gear on.
Yeah, you'll notice that he's wearing a mask underneath that. Uh, Somewhat tall, slender build, with gear that would imply a warrior of the martial arts of some kind. And that's all for now.
Well, good to meet you, Fen. And yes, as friend Alexis here said, you're more than welcome to join us. I certainly found we need all the help we can get here. And we'll kind of like introduce him to, I guess, Valine as well.
So you'll see another figure who is about like mid 5 foot, a little bit shorter, signs of her gray hair kind of blowing out from her hood, a black eye patch over her left eye, and she'll a little bit more hesitant kind of look to you and reach out a hand, and just kind of in speaking soft words will just be, "Well met, survivor. Fen, we have treacherous, dangerous paths ahead of us. We need to make for the sea of grinding ice and further into danger."
This land is danger, as far as I can tell. There is a austereness to it that simplifies things. A daily test of survival. But if these travels can help illuminate the troubles, uh, this land is out of balance. It will be treacherous, but what choice do we have?
Not very much, apparently. And we're definitely going to have quite the distance to go, as she says, as she continues to place more stone. Uh, any idea who wishes to keep watch first for the night?
You can take the first watch.
All right. If while you take the first watch, I'll probably do a little bit of work for that first hour before I go to sleep.
What are you getting at here? If you work and have to take a watch, you are going to wake up exhausted and not benefit from a long rest.
Okay. Never mind then. She's gonna go straight to sleep.
So, as you all kind of situate yourselves, for what it is worth, we can kind of skip through these next few hours of everybody having a rough, unsettled sleep, and continue from the next morning. Effectively, at this point, I would like everybody to make a decision as to what you will be doing for level 7. Is Are our wizards going wizard?
Yes, Brannick's gonna go another wizard level.
Same. I'm taking another wizard level.
Gotcha. And then for Fen, are you going to do another monk, another cleric? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I do want to dip into, but I think I want to wait until level 9.
So is that sticking with monk?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with monk until I hit 8.
Gotcha. So if I can have a d6 from each of the wizards, roll one more for me, Brennick. If you roll another one, it's a 2. Gotcha. So that'll put Brennick at 25 hit points rolled and Rashad at 29 hit points rolled. And then I need 78 from Ben, please. Same idea. If you roll any ones, you re-roll the 1. If you get another 1, it is a 2. So do 4 more, and the first one's the re-roll. And then do 1 more. Oh wait, never mind. My bad. Do 2 more here. Gotcha. So you are going to be 31, 39 hit points rolled. Rashad, are you able to get into your character sheet right now?
Oh yeah, I can do it on. I can go. I can get into it on my phone, just not on my computer. But it's not. It doesn't link through the phone. The roles. It doesn't link through the phone for the D&D through the phone to the to Roll20 on. Actually, let me see if it does. Hold on.
I don't know, because the way your phone probably works is it's an app, and it probably doesn't give you access to Beyond 20, because Beyond 20 is an installation. Unless you were going, God, this would be crazy. Unless you were going into D&D Beyond through Brave or Chrome, and you had Beyond 20 installed in that Brave or Chrome, but I have a feeling because of how apps work, you are probably not accessing it in a way that allows Beyond 20 to work. But I don't think level 7 should be like a big level as far as things that you guys get a hold of. I think it will change. Oh, wait, did you alter? Is Fen 7 levels of monk right now? Is that what's going on? I feel like I looked at you at one point and you had a level of cleric.
I was messing around with it, but I decided not to.
Okay, I got you.
I was flip flopping between, but I think I want to hit level 8 in monk before I do the dip.
Gotcha. So yeah, that should set you all up. If you guys need a moment to actually deal with level 7 stuff, that is fine. Insofar as things go, you don't necessarily need a whole lot of stuff to be like fully prepared for it. But this is kind of that general idea where in the long run, I pretty much always want you guys to be prepared for the next level for whenever it does come about. But you should be pretty well set here, and we will pick up after that long rest in the ruins of Targos. I think Valine has 4 zombies kind of sat around your little shelter, almost getting buried in the snow across the night. This area has still been inundated by a blizzard over the last almost 24 hours or so at this point. At some point during the dragon's attack, a blizzard picked up and it has not subsided. Through your watches, through just the way you all might share some of the information, that's where, like, upon morning time, you all might connect the dots of how odd this is, or how it is a almost oh, I'm looking for the Asian word, but basically like the rise in the stakes, as this eternal winter was something, but if it becomes an eternal blizzard and 10 towns is destroyed, nobody is going to survive. And as far as kind of the conversation picks up around sharing this, where you all will notice that across all 8 watches of the night, all 4 of you watching at different times, you're going to start to come to terms with the fact that this blizzard has continued on. And this is where Valine will again kind of bring up the magics that we will be searching for are perhaps those which are powerful enough where we can. And she'll kind of look around for a moment and pause for a moment on Fen. With the powers of Yithrin opened, perhaps control and end this winter. Or having to get so close to the island of the Frost Maiden. Perhaps we can kill the god who would bring such horrendous things on those you care for.
Well, hopefully we can. Hopefully this will not end completely tragically. This is a god that we're about to try to take on, and in its own icy tundra, no less.
Any god who is forced to live among mortals is perhaps hiding more for their lack of power than for the abundance. Do we have so much to fear of one who hides among the humans that their presence punishes?
You think she may be vulnerable? Interesting.
Her power at its height was limited to the winter itself. She has fled to a place where bringing winter is easy. I believe yes. If it comes to it, and she'll look across all of the faces of all of the party, recognizing that bad things happen. You all have done great things, and you seem to care about the actual people of 10 towns. If it comes to it, ending her reign is a way to save those who have survived this plague.
So Brannick is like in his mind, he's thinking, kill a god, then there's no way they can deny me entry into the Brotherhood. But he'll feign like, yes, let's, you know, he'll kind of like nod, kind of trying to feign like, yes, let's do it for the people of 10 towns. And he'll be like out loud, he'll be like, yes, people have been through enough. If we can end this endless winter, I'm willing to try.
If I recall, I don't believe you've mentioned anything about the Brotherhood to Valine, like anything about your intentions.
No, so that part where he's just thinking inside his head. But
Gotcha. I just wanted to confirm, but that's what I was thinking.
yeah, he hasn't brought it up, I don't think, um, to her. Yeah.
It is difficult to find the island that Auril inhabits. The castle was once the home of frost giants. It is an island that floats through the sea of grinding ice. I have heard tell of a druid who awakened a whale that can be procured for travel. If that sounds satisfactory to you, it would be more ideal than our other option of attempting to procure a sailing ship from those of Revel's End.
Oh well, that why does that sound familiar? Melissa says that out loud, like she looks at Brennan. Do we know it well?
It's been some time, but yes, we've procured its services once before. Um, our trip with Helka, if you recall.
Ah, yes, yes. I wonder how they're doing right now. I mean, I know they're swimming in the sea of ice. Huh? Maybe they'll help. Maybe they will help us again. If I remember correctly, didn't we brought her food though for last time? Should we do that again, or bring something else? Actually, no. If I recall, she does like elk, right?
Elk or octopus, fish, whatever a whale eats, I suppose. Not picky. Something fresh, I suppose.
All right. Well then, yeah. I suggest that we try to get an elk once we get close enough. That way, it'll at least be fresh when we arrive. I mean, but then again, the place is made of ice. It's going to stay fresh for quite a while, and maybe a little bit of octopus as well on the side if we're able.
Yeah, like at this point, you all know there's 3 different states of things: frozen, fresh as in you just killed it minutes ago, and actually like dried into beef jerky. If anything has any moisture left to it, it's going to freeze into a block of ice. Which, with a whale that lives inside of the sea of grinding ice, probably also isn't really a big deal either.
Well, yes, and I would suggest we try to see if we can procure this whale's services again. Perhaps it has some knowledge of this island we need to find. I believe it is a rather old creature. I believe I recall where there was a small cabin or post, I believe. We the last time we made our way there, and then moved east along the coastline. West, I'm sorry.
I believe so. That could have been. It's been a while though, so I'm not very good at remembering some of the things that we've done a while. I mean, I can remember the people at the least. But I don't think we're gonna have too much issue finding her.
Yeah, so with all the marks, it's not necessarily ideal to drag the board to show, but you guys do have a rough idea of where Angajuk's Bell is. On some level, you basically know that you want to head kind of north-northeast or north-northwest of Bremen. As far as things go from Targos, you all can kind of make your assessment what you would like to do here. But in general, you had Helka before who knew the location of it. And you can kind of make the decision how you will progress from Targos when you all are ready.
Well, Hispanic would suggest just, we kind of try and make this point just a straight shot across the tundra. If we, essentially if we go, say, northeast, if we should stumble, hopefully stumble across it.
Yeah, maybe just so long as we hit the right direction. I don't want us to, especially I don't remember there being a road directly there. Um, about I think we'll probably see the sea moving ice well before we get close, and we should be close enough to grab any elk.
You guys are inside of a blizzard, so you're seeing 20 to 30 feet at any given point here.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, like at this point, you have a certain level of expecting to pretty much walk into the sea of moving ice before you really recognize it. as far as having been there in the past, you would definitely recognize that as far as some of the ice that's closest to the shore, it's very easy to be kind of on top of a semi free floating glacier before even recognizing that you've left the more or less solid land behind you.
That's no, honestly, that sounds fucking terrifying. Like just be walking, and next thing you know, you just on a floating ice cube in the middle of the fucking ocean. Like that's fucking terrifying.
That's part of why people don't come to and cannot make it back out of Icewind Dale these days. Is the sea of grinding ice is near guaranteed death to anybody who comes via ship.
But listen to Luke said, Brannick. All right, so we definitely need to be careful on our way there, though, because I don't want us to accidentally run into the ocean and never be heard from again. That would suck. Um, I don't have a way. Not sure if there's a way to actually. We should be able to at least guess the distance that we're from it, at the least, since we've been there. I mean, we've been traveling these lands for a while. I'm confident in our ability to guess the distance when we get close.
Perhaps before the river across to Bremen or whatever's left of it, perhaps try to make a straight shot north until we hit the coastline, and then we can follow that west, and then we should reach it as long as we don't get too off course.
All right. Yeah, we can definitely do that. I'll be. Well, this is kind of stretches out. Whenever you actually ready to head out, we can definitely head on out. It shouldn't. And she just looks around at and looks at the blizzard. It shouldn't that be too bad. I mean, it's not the first time we done it.
I would, yes, I would just suggest everyone stay close. Hopefully it lets up at some point, but suppose we can't assume it will.
So, in the past, at some point, you all tied yourselves together during a blizzard. I have assumed that you all have been doing that in the past. Staying close is not sufficient in a blizzard. Um, you would kind of recognize that. So, on some level, you guys have to either let me know if that is no longer the state of affairs, otherwise, go ahead and assume that you tie everyone on some level back to. Ooh, I didn't even think about it. The wolves are gone. Yeah, you guys moved to foot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so basically having tied yourselves together at this point with ropes, that will be the state of affairs as you kind of push forward here.
Yeah, I like that's kind of like when Brennick said stay close. Like I that's what I kind of meant. Like because we doing the same thing and like using that to make sure we stay close. I just
Gotcha. Yeah, I just
forgot to
wanted to make
mention it.
sure. That's one of those things where I feel like when you solve a problem, it's often easier not to like waste time on it. But the way it's phrased there, like that's one thing you guys would know that staying close and walking in a blizzard are two completely different things. So when you all are prepared, I believe we have Fen roll a survival for us. You got the same modifier on stealth and survival.
Yeah, I hit the wrong one.
So you all can spend about the next hour and a half, 2 hours following close to the shore between Targos and Bremen, staying near the icy edge of Mare Dualdin as you eventually start to get close to the edge of the shore and it starts to kind of round around you. You all know that you are coming up on and close to Bremen. I think occasionally in like the latter part of these 2 hours, you'll see points where the blizzard does break enough that you see signs of kind of smoldering ruins ahead of you, that you are at least traveling in the general proper direction. You all can make it to Bremen pretty early in the morning. And what thoughts do you all have as you come up to Bremen? As far as crossing goes, do you think you would be crossing the river out of Merdualdin like deep water, like deep out into the lake, towards kind of the just closest portion of the lake that broaches between Targos and Bremen, or kind of downriver? Deeper out in the lake, the water is frozen. You have to go wider. It's easier to get kind of lost and almost miss Bremen, but it's also deeper, solider ice. Whereas the point kind of closest to Targos and Bremen is where the water below the ice is actually forced to go faster, and it makes some of the weakest ice, but you can almost see across the actual path because there's a little island about halfway between. So you all can basically spot this little island and almost like froggy hop across, like one quick jump to the internals, one quick jump to the side where Bremen is, or you can go further southwest down the actual river and cross kind of a little bit south of Bremen. What kind of thoughts do you all have there?
Valixis is states that she is Valixis can't swim, so Valixis turns to Brennick and Finn is like she would like to get across quickly, but so if they need to take more solid ice to walk safely, she would like that. If y'all feel like we should, yeah, I feel like we should go further down river so that we can get across faster. So that's not where it's a little skinnier. I'll be okay with that. Just know I'm probably am going to freak out a little bit because I cannot swim.
I, for one, would prefer something a bit more solid under my feet as well. I don't imagine anyone could last long if they were to fall into water that cold. So I've no. It's a risk, but I would support that idea. Look for more solid ice and cross there, even if it takes a bit longer. Makes us a little indirect.
Would be the safest choice. Can't be too careful.
So all right, so Valixis has to head up towards the more solid form of the lake and river, so that they can safely walk across.
So, onto the lake or onto the river? You're kind of either going north of Bremen or you're going south of Bremen.
Oh, sorry, we're going from our conversation. We are going north of Bremen across the south side.
Gotcha. So you all can cross over the lake. Let me get a survival here from Fen, please. Let me have everyone roll a dexterity check, please. You got a +3 dexterity with Felixus. So everybody is going to watch as you all are crossing this area, making your way to the north of Bremen as Fen gets onto the first bit of solid ground. You all are just kind of south of this hill that kind of rises up, and occasionally you're able to see as like the winds of the blizzard are almost drawn out and around this building that kind of stands out and over this peak of this hill, and you're basically kind of seeing like this wind kind of speed up along this north side of Bremen. As you all are kind of almost releasing a little bit of anxiety, watching Fen step onto what feels like solid ground for the first time in ages, Velixis, you are going to step through the ice, and one of your feet up to your kind of thigh is going to get coated in freezing cold water. And nothing really happens. Anybody else would be risking death. But for you, Velixis, it's hardly even an inconvenience.
Water, uh, almost up to the ground if I had fallen further. Shit, and Billy just kind of pulls a foot out of it and continues to walk behind Brennick and Finn.
We need to get you to warmth. If your leg stays wet, you will die shortly after we have to take that leg from you.
Alexis, you didn't feel that?
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. My leg is fine. I don't. It's not cold or nothing. I'm good. I'm good. We can press on.
So Brannick's gonna glance towards Fen. So he seems to know kind of his way around you know, kind of the wilderness. He's been kind of taking the lead, so he's gonna kind of look towards him and almost like give like a like raise of his eyebrows, like, do you know what's going on here? Kind of thing.
Fen will look nonplussed, but agree to press on.
At the very least, you must take off your cold weather. Those pants are going to freeze. They will become a solid block of ice. We must do something. Uh, Remove them, and one of the other... we can wrap you in a hide. You need warmth.
I agree, Alexis. I think you should listen to her.
Very well. We can go ahead and if y'all are specific that I need to stop for this, then we can. I'm not gonna argue with it. And Felix is kind of just continues to shake the water from her legs and from her cold weather gear. Uh, where should we where should we stop for warmth then?
How far away was the? You said we saw a house on a hill.
Yeah, so you guys pretty well know that you are effectively just north of where Bremen is. If you go to climb the hill towards that structure, you are perfectly welcome to. Otherwise, you know that most of the city lies to the south of you. If you stay along the edge of Merdualdin and the river, you can come up to some of the barracks you have all seen. Other than that, like the town is kind of in a triangular shape just to the south of you.
Well, perhaps we should head for the nearest structure and take care or investigate this cold. Take care of the cold, wet gear.
Brannick would agree. Kind of maybe try and go for the closest. I guess probably sounds like that building um, up on the hill that we saw.
Gotcha. Let me get athletics from everyone. And at present, Valixis, yours will be at disadvantage. So it's a straight roll for you, Valixis, just the worst of your two.
I clicked it twice. I'm not sure if it's coming up yet.
Gotcha. You can do the same thing, though, as rolling just a d20.
Oh yeah, I did. That's what I'm saying. Like it's been weird.
Okay, even in roll 20, it's lagging.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
So you are going to watch as this wet pant leg is freezing long before Valixis can even like start the climb up this hill. Valine as well is kind of struggling to make her way up the hill behind you all. Brennick and Fen, you are going to make the peak and see the ruins of this building in front of you. It is kind of a L-shaped building, seem to have a taller kind of central area that is almost right before you, where things have kind of collapsed inward, and you can still see some of the structure kind of stands up like to a second story, but it is effectively leveled to the ground. So it's kind of like the four corners of what was this higher area are still kind of remaining, and then you are at a long side of it, and it extends kind of south of you, and on the west side that kind of extends out further. So you've got the ruins of this building ahead of you, and it is effectively kind of west to east is where like the main structure is right in front of you, and a little bit of it on that west side extends to the south. What would you all like to do as you make the peak? You see Valine and Valixis are struggling, but they're effectively just going to take longer. This isn't like a fail state so much as if it's time being lost.
And is this a stone structure or a wooden structure? Most part, like the ruins, I guess. Is there? I think Brannick's first idea is to look around for anything that might be able to be used as like kindling or something we can start a fire with to try to warm up Velixis when he reaches the top.
I believe as you all are starting to discover this place in ruins, you're going to see more and more signs that most of what Ten Towns is constructed of is effectively wood. Um, I think you might find some signs that this is almost, oh man, like Shakespearean age was kind of where we were famous for, like the lower levels were stone, like up like 2 feet or so, and then it was like sod and mud like around the wood. I feel like most of Ten Towns is still kind of in that style. So when you guys are going through these different towns, if I ever describe them as rubble, a lot of what you are going to see is effectively really well charred wood. This is excellent for starting fires. As far as things go, you don't have things that are going to rage on fire, but charred like already burnt wood is effectively like charcoal at this point. There's a lot less of it than there was, but at the same time any of this makes for quick fires because it is effectively just looking for a little bit of a flashpoint and fuel. So when you bring it all together, it makes it really easy to actually create fires here. But yeah, you guys are effectively like that initial building that was the taller side of this spire would pretty much be just right for you to sit kind of in the stone remnants of this collapse, collecting wood from the rest of what was kind of like this mansion over Bremen, and effectively be able to get a fire going probably before Valine and Velixis made it to the top of the hill.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what Brannock would focus on as they reach the top.
Yeah, find a suitable place to start a fire and do so, and usher in the wet of old.
Felix is kind of struggling up the mountain, up the hill right now with her cold leg.
Well, again, realistically, you're perfectly fine, Velixis. Your leg is just frozen because the pant leg is wet.
Right. That's what
Any
I meant.
anybody else would need amputation at this point. In this weather, anyone else would lose this leg. And that's kind of the point that is going to arise with everyone to kind of notice at this point that this is already the type of thing where this was near fatal to pretty much anybody. As far as what I was describing to you all, you are effectively at this little house that stands up and above Bremen.
And is it we're still in like blizzard conditions? Are we able to see? Are there any other buildings that look like they're the less damage that we can see from this vantage point within the town itself?
Yeah, so effectively, like from now on, everything is blizzard conditions. You guys are severely limited in sight. Everything is going to be horrendous. Um, but yeah, when you guys are up here, say it takes them another 15 or 20 minutes, you might get one or two glances down to the south where you actually see signs of uh probably those two most southern buildings, like immediately south of you. I'm on like the thinnest line. That's a terrible line. These like buildings, you can probably see those initial two at different points, and almost entirely because of the way the hill is kind of creating a wave in the way the blizzard is kind of flying down across Mare Dualdin. It is giving you all a little bit of the most visibility, but those buildings as well are leveled. Uh, as you all eventually go through Bremen, you are going to find that just like Targos, the dragon came here to destroy structures. And you all already kind of picked up that a lot of what the dragon was doing was hoarding everybody into Bryn Shindar, where killing everybody would be much, much easier. And that's one of those things where this is just kind of confirming it. The dragon's initial goal was to destroy anything that would be a shelter from it. And that would either kill people or push them towards the safe place in 10 towns for all of history of Icewind Dale has always been the walls of Bryn Shindar. And you guys already recognize that that's what the dragon was doing the whole time, was drawing everybody in to a trap. And this place being in Bremen, you're going to see signs of this destruction. But I kind of skipped over. Can I get a perception at disadvantage from Fen and Brennick, please? Oh, and also, Fen, I do want you to roll those 2d20 still. I typed it in the chat earlier, but you did not see.
I need to roll what?
2d20, please. So I think with that, Brennick is going to be collecting just wood. Let me get a d4 from you, Fen. And let me get a d100 from you, Fen. Roll a d8 for me. And a d4. So while Fen is collecting firewood, you are going to see in these burned ruins a small silver metallic case. You can pick it up. It seems to be a cylinder. At each end, it has kind of fine engravings on it, but it seems to be a small tube, kind of cylindrical tube that's about 6 or so inches wide, and it's maybe like 2 thumbs diameter.
take a closer look at. You said the ends were. Is there anything that I can discern from the markings, or what kind of markings are there? Is it writing? Is it just filigree?
Roll a Arcana. So you've probably been close enough to casters in the past to see that there are often things that there are almost proprietary writings of any given caster. And upon finding this, you have a pretty solid sense that this is some caster's effectively spell scroll case. Like a scroll case. It's for protecting paper.
I will bring it to the attention of the other spellcasters in the party.
So let's see when this happens. Roll a. Let me have Fen and Valixis roll a d20.
Sorry, I think my Bluetooth may have cut out momentarily. I heard he found when he found the thing, and then that description of it. Was there anything in between that I missed?
Effectively, he's able to identify that it is a wizard's spell scroll case, that it is effectively a case for protecting paper. Other than that, he was basically able to identify that this is likely a wizard's or a caster's like unique language for how they write down information that's kind of like inlaid into the actual case itself. The case itself, though, is definitely something that is valuable in itself as well. Um, so yeah, I would say on some level you're finding this prior to Valixis making it up there, about like 8 or so minutes before they get up there. So when you all are preparing to start this fire, Fen is going to be able to kind of return and with that piqued curiosity be able to kind of share with Brennick that you found this silver case.
Yeah, so Brannick will definitely uh, express some interest in it. Um, is there a if Fen hands it to him to inspect? Like, does there appear to be a obvious uh, way to open it?
You can either roll perception or you can roll an arcana here. Two different things, but they're both related to opening it. Gotcha. So as far as things go, you can tell that this is a pretty simple scroll case. Both of the end caps do open it, and you are perhaps a little bit more concerned that they are like wards, and you're able to essentially kind of continue on with what he identified in that this is indeed some sort of gibberish to you, but you can recognize enough of it that it is the language of effectively a caster or a wizard, somebody who is trained in the magical arts. For what it is worth, both of the end caps pop off, and there's not really any reason for you to necessarily fear that they're protective. They're embellishments.
Okay, because I was thinking, maybe like if we were still waiting for Elixis and Valine to make the top, Brannick might take the time to cast, ritually cast detect magic to kind of with the same idea, like thinking like if maybe it was warded or something.
That is certainly the safest route. You are reasonably sure that you don't have anything to worry about, but you did have a friend die yesterday, so
Yeah, I think Brannick would suggest to Fen, like, if you'll allow me, I like to. Some wizards are known for protecting their valuables. It Just to be safe, I'd like to take a bit of time and make sure there's nothing that's going to fight us if we open it, in a manner of speaking.
Whatever you think best, the ways and means of wizards are beyond my ken.
So you can begin to cast. It won't be too much longer before Valixis and Valine make the peak, and kind of seeing this process. Valine will have a little bit of a piqued interest for a moment before she kind of huddles into one of the corners relatively close to the bit of a fire to see, and her initial draw, you'll see her eye. I guess realistically, Fen might see her eye drawn towards the scroll for a moment before she looks over to Valixis. Quickly, we need to get you changed and remove those if we are to be able to save your leg. We must see what damage is done. And she's going to call over to one of her zombie kobolds, and bringing the kobold over is going to pull out one of the animal hides from its pack and kind of wrap Valixis around it as she tries to get you to disrobe.
Look, lady. Look, I'm good. I mean, we can dry the clothes off by a nice one fire. I don't want, I don't need the disrobe right here.
I mean, your pants are a block of ice. You are going to be moving at a slow pace if you do not take your pants off.
Melissa looks around. She kind of like goes and finds a little spot away from everyone, out of sight, and she she just begrudgingly just she begrudgingly removes the clothes and throws them over the stone and asks for the robe or the or something to cover up with.
So after a few moments, she'll send over one of the zombies, and you'll have this little dead kobold with its face half burnt off and down to the bone walk over to you with this little hide and kind of hold out its hands with the robe, or with this animal hide just kind of folded across its arms, and it'll just stand there, just dead eye staring at you.
Melissa reaches out, grabs the robe, and covers up with it quickly. Uh, Thank you, my friend. And she says towards the cobalt, you knowing that it's not likely to respond. And then
It it doesn't show any signs of recognizing that you even exist. There's a very eerie feeling that you all can kind of recognize that these kobolds effectively see nothing unless she's kind of instructing them to do it. And that's where perhaps the eeriest part of them looking at you is their face is looking at you, but there's nothing inside of their eyes that tells you that there's anything alive in there.
right, and so let's kind of head back over to join the rest of the group. Um, there's a question I've been meaning to ask you about the cobalts while we have a little bit of time. Where did you run into them at?
Valine's going to be kind of looking down towards your leg and the fact that you're still walking. And almost like caught off guard, she'll kind of look back to you and, your kind can be found all across the world. It is not difficult to find kobolds, nor dead kobolds.
I guess I do need to be a bit more specific. Did you find them here, and were they already alive at the time that you found them?
Living and dead are so close to one another. I found the kobolds useful when I was able to find them. Your leg is astounding. Perhaps there is more to you, and far less similarity to your kin. And she'll kind of look over to Brannick and see, as you're kind of finishing your spell, is it everything that you hope for? So she's very clearly ignoring Velixis from that point. Is Velixis pushing it? And then as far as things go, Brannick, as you finish casting, I don't think scrolls give off magic. So I'm going to say you don't see an aura within. If scrolls gave off magic, I think you would pick up. Let me actually go to the spell real quick. Illusion magic.
So Brannick would kind of like coming out of his, finishing up the spell, he would turn sort of towards Feline, kind of not in the middle, having in the middle of this ritual, not having like kind of missed them arriving and all this stuff with Felixis. But he would say like, don't know if it's everything I hoped for, but it's what I fear does not seem to be or what I was hoping it was not. It is not. That's a victory, I suppose. And then he'll kind of like stop and like kind of shake his head like that, didn't make any sense. Maybe the cold's getting to him. Um, and then he'll kind of look towards Fen and Felixis, and then kind of move to um, open up one of the end caps and see what's actually inside.
So what is Velixis doing as she changes the subject?
Village kind of looks back at the kobolds, and she thinks back to the kobolds that they ran into some time ago, trying to see if there's any similarities between them over their dead flesh and rotten flesh. And she just, afterwards, she kind of turns back towards the group, and she thinks to herself, I'll ask again later.
Roll a perception check. I would say, looking over them, from what you can tell, they seem to be kobolds. From what you remember, 2 of them were dead when you all met her, and 4 of them were alive. It's hard for you to even be able to pick up with how much like flesh and damage they have sustained, whether these are the same 2 or the 4 that were alive at that point, it's really difficult to kind of make any sense of any of it. But as far as you can tell, they just seem to be other kobolds than what you've come across. But as a kobold, you would know, like, kobolds are one of the most abundant races, and they also get wiped out in droves. Kobolds breed like rabbits, and they die like rabbits. Um, I know you might want to play Velixis as being very angry about this, but there's a lot of kobolds in this world, and dying is what they do best. Um, but yeah, as far as you can tell, Valine did not kill any kobolds that you've met, and you can't even tell whether those are the same kobolds. Like if 2 of them were already dead when you met her, or if those are all 4 brand new kobolds. When Brennick pulls out the case, you are going to see that there is a single rolled piece of paper inside. Upon investigating it, you cannot identify what spell this is. Would you all like to spend an hour here short resting? You are probably early mid-morning right now. As you could guess, you are probably 3 to 5 hours after the rise of the aurora overhead. Maybe 4 to 5 hours is a better estimate.
So Brannick would suggest that uh, he's definitely interested in figuring out what this scroll is, and he would kind of he would like couch his suggestion in like in terms of like we need to give Elixis time to you know recover, uh, and get warmed up, but he would mostly be interested in figuring out what this scroll is. But he would suggest they take an hour.
We can travel at your leisure if the others decide as such. I will follow your choices, and she'll look to Velixis as well as Fen for your decisions.
Fen will say, I may not know much about the ways and means of wizards, but I do know that they love their knowledge. I have no objections while you discern what is what effect is contained in such a scroll.
And does that sound good with Velixis as well?
Yeah, well, it's good to go with it.
So you all can hang out in this area above Bremen in the ruins, kind of continuing to stoke this bit of a fire here and there, eventually getting to the point where you actually start to feel bits of warmth as you're kind of like shedding heat onto the stones that are reflecting it back on you. Looking over this spell that makes very little sense to you, you are going to be able to pick up over time the actual spell that it is is effectively just beyond your actual capabilities. As you're kind of looking it over, you will eventually come to the realization that it is a spell to kind of enter into the dreams of a creature that is sleeping and you can kind of modify their dream with yourself inside of it. So it is effectively a way to communicate with someone who is already in sleep. But for what it is worth, this is a scroll of dream.
Okay, so Brennick is can't quite figure out the particulars, like how exactly be able to cast it, but he has some idea, and he's definitely piques his interest, and he would yeah, I think he would probably tuck the he would probably like tuck the scroll away like within his own um kind of in a in a pouch or safe kind of. I guess he'd put it actually back in this scroll case for now. It's probably the best place for it. He would look towards like Fen, since Fen found it, and like ask, "Do you mind if I hold on to this for now? I think this would be quite useful. It's not something I can't quite get it at the moment, but."
I have no use for it. You and the other wizard can decide amongst yourselves. I expect if it were a sword instead of a scroll, you'd give me the same benefit.
Yeah, and Brannick will, he would kind of hand it over to Velixis to kind of take a look at as well, and I guess, um, yeah,
More or less, it would be the same problem. It will take an hour for Velixis studying it to be able to figure out what the spell is. As far as kind of the dynamics of things, like any given random night, very easy for Velixis to take that time to learn it. If you guys hang out here now, it would basically make it so either of you could cast the spell in a pinch. You would very well know that Dream is not the spell that you cast in a pinch. That is a spell that you cast because you mean to manipulate someone's dreams. So it's not like a make or break the moment kind of thing, but you could certainly describe Dream to Velixis at this point. But that is effectively a couple levels ahead of you all, so it's not something that you immediately know how to use. In general, like the way I'll play spells is if you could cast it now, you are aware of its existence. If you don't currently have access to it, something might be entirely new and very much unknown to you, at least at present.
gotcha. Okay, yeah. So, um, yeah, so maybe like next time we were settling down for like for a night's rest, Brannick would kind of give Alexis more time to take a look at it.
But as far as like the two of you go, like if you looked up Dream right now, that is perfectly within like what your characters would know and understand the scroll can do. It is a way to manipulate somebody's dream and create what you need to show them and or communicate with them. So as you all finish that up, what sort of thoughts do you have? You've got the ruins of Bremen to the south of you. At present, you pretty much have the recognition of the building that you were in and effectively the two buildings that are immediately south of you. And you have the tundras to the west on the way to the Sea of Moving Ice.
Yeah, I think we might be able to find some useful items around here that we might be able to take with us on this trip.
Rough estimate, how long do you think it would take for us to walk through the town?
Like walking through the town, like from one end to the other and gone, probably about like 15-20 minutes. Searching every building in this town, like 2 to 3 days.
Well, I'm assuming the destruction came here from the dragon as well.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like right now, you guys have the confirmation that the 3 buildings that you can see in Bremen are all leveled to the ground.
I think it's pure luck or Fenn's keen eye that found this, and Colonel kind of holding up the scroll. But if the rest of Bremen's anything like the other places we've seen, I'm not sure what we might find. What are you hoping we might come across, Alexis?
Did we lose you, Rashad?
No, I was speaking. I'm not sure if I pushed my button down or not.
Gotcha. Yep, we did not hear you. Once Brennick asked the question, it was silence.
Oh no, Felix has responded back. Um, just normal anything that may be helpful. Rope, uh, other kits that could be useful. Heck, we're going out onto ice, so anything we can use to help us get across over ice, like maybe just anything useful. Heck, at this point, maybe even some additional food to take with us.
Well, it would take days for us to search the town properly.
True, true. So, but you know,
Yeah, this is a classic, like, what are you guys actually looking for? If you're looking for rope, you know where the fishing, like, shacks were. You can go and check something like that, but you have to hedge your bets. If you want to search through everything for the chance to find anything and everything, you're going to spend days here searching. If you want to go through and take a look for rope because rope is important to you, you can check in like places you know fishermen like lived. But that's one of those things, like if you're going to look for everything, you're either going to pick a building at random and ask to search it and use some time, or you're going to search everything and we're going to spend days here searching through the ruins. But this is where it matters. Like, if you want to be specific, you can narrow down what you're looking for and you can increase the chances of finding it. As far as I was concerned, this mansion exists in Bremen and it is not the town hall. It's the perfect place for something magical to exist. So, very mechanics of the game and very meta knowledge. It was a perfect place that once you guys decided to climb the hill and go there, I was perfectly happy with the idea that Brennick or Fen would accidentally cross over a magical item. But if you're hoping to find just generically anything, your chances are much broader and much more difficult to find anything. I don't know. It's one of those things you have to decide. If you're looking for something in particular, try to narrow it down and like hedge how much time you will use.
right? Okay.
Like if you're looking for food, you guys know that the buried treasure was where Cora Mulfoon, I feel like is her name, was like the proprietor of that inn. Or you could go to the Five Taverns and hope that you might be able to get some food from there. You know where the barracks of the soldiers of Bryn Shindar was, and maybe the barracks exist, and you could raid some food from there. But you have to tell me like what you're looking for, and try to hedge your bets like that.
Okay, yeah, Velixus is trying to find food, rope, and that's pretty much it.
So food and rope might mean that your best chance is to go for the 3 shelters of the fishermen and basically search the shacks that would be just kind of southeast of where you all are. If you all go as a single unit, you can just search north to south. If you guys want to split up and go one in each of those ruins, you guys can do that and each of you search separately. It is up to you, but if you are looking for food and rope, I feel like that is probably the place where you're going to be going to.
Well, let's all do it together, and then if we're single-minded and as a group, we're less likely to miss something.
Right.
Yes, agreed. We should stick together.
Gotcha. So let me get a perception from each of you here. I think as you all look around the first of these shacks, you're going to find rope might be difficult in this endeavor, as most anything that is flammable is effectively burnt and gone. Looking for something that is, well, I don't know what else you make rope out of besides like hemp in a lot of these ages. I feel like rope is a pretty solid idea that this is probably burned with the main fuel sources of most of these places being burned. As far as food goes, while you're going through these ruins, you will probably occasionally find things that are effectively like charred hunks of fish. Most of it is probably going to look pretty much pointless to carry, but occasionally you guys can find what would seem to be maybe somebody who had fresh catches and had like a whole knucklehead trout. And while the outside is completely burnt, the actual like girth of a knucklehead trout was enough that you have the inside muscles are effectively like dried into jerky. So I'd say as far as things go, you guys could take um, a couple of pounds each of what is effectively rations. So let me have like each of you roll um a D8. So you guys could find about 17 or so pounds of rations, which is, what is that, like just over 5 apiece kind of thing.
Well, it was Volitus's idea to look for him, so we'll give him the extra. So 5, 5, and 7. That sounds good to everybody else.
Yeah, that's fine.
Velixus said, Velixus agrees. I honestly just wanted to find food for us. I don't think there's anything else that we should need if y'all wish to go ahead and head on out.
Krennic will nod. That sounds like a plan.
Gotcha. So just searching that northern barracks, you're going to kind of push away and look to head towards the Sea of Grinding Ice. If so, let's get a survival from Fen. Actually, I feel like this is a solid time for us to take a break. Let's come back 25 after. If everybody's back before then, we'll pick back up. But otherwise, let's take a quick break here.
All right.
Sure. Sounds good.
Hey, Brandon, what was the spell you picked up for your next level?
Oh, so he did take Dispel Magic, as he had kind of been like talking about that.
And okay, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't grab that. I knew what it was, I just couldn't remember the name of it.
And then like if Belixis was like he would also say like kind of like something that will, he's figured out a way that he thinks maybe he can avoid being he's a couple times he's been kind of found himself trapped in dangerous spots, and he's kind of thinks he's finally figured out a way to kind of find a way around that, occasionally. 'Cause I don't know, like it's like I think like I don't know, do spells have like did everybody consider like this the same spell, or do they talk more about effects? Right, like, is it like does everybody like so like the fireball spell, like is that like everybody knows it as fireball, or people just know that some people can cause the effects and some people call it fireball, maybe some people call it something else, I don't know.
In general, naming a spell, I'm usually talking mechanics, not in game.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, like kind of describing kind of what this spell does without just saying like, oh, I took, blah.
Exactly. Yep. That's why like Valine's chill touch is creating like skeletal arms that she like reaches out and touches a creature with skeletal arms. Versus calling it chill touch and basically doing like ice damage. It is very particularly like the touch of death, but it is like her skeleton that does it. I think most people recognize Fireball. That is perhaps one of the few spells that is very simple to call Fireball and recognize it, but it doesn't change that in general, the idea with Fireball is that it is the ability to shoot out a little mote, and that mote explodes, creating a fireball. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is going to use the same words to cast it, but that's one of those things where, like, the mechanics, it's this. As far as how you want to flavor and talk about something, can be entirely different, but just because Valine's chill touch is different from this person's chill touch doesn't mean that like somebody going to counterspell it is not going to know exactly what she's doing. Watching Brennick cast a fireball and watching Valixis cast a fireball, somebody who's trying to counterspell a fireball is going to know exactly what you're doing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So like, and like dispel magic is kind of like fireball, and that like you might not be like I've learned dispel magic, but like I've learned, you know, I think I've learned how to dispel like it's kind of it does what it says, so it's not really any point.
Precisely, yeah. That one is far easier to say when you are describing what you are capable of doing, that the name comes as a result of it. Same way, like Firebolt, Like, there's a lot of ways to describe what you're doing with Firebolt. The fact of the matter is you are creating a fire missile, and it's a firebolt, no matter whether you call it a bolt, a missile, a ranged ball of fire. There's a lot of different ways to describe it, but they're all the same thing.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'm back.
Dream is a very, very weird spell to randomly give out.
Yeah, it definitely seems situational, but and I mean, I think it's a fifth level spell, so I've got at least a few levels before I can even cast it anyway. So
Well, again, you can cast it. You just may not be successful. Whereas I think once you wait to ninth level, when you can cast a fifth level spell, I think you can always cast it once you have the ability.
right, or I get to that point if I have the time and materials. I don't know where I would find any more rare inks and stuff. I could 'cause you can copy a spell from a scroll into a book, right?
Precisely, yep. So that's the draw with a wizard. Once you find a scroll, you have that decision of, do I copy it or do I use it? And I'm without looking at it offhand, the mechanics, you have that decision of, do I use it right away or do I use it when I know at least I'm going to get the use out of it? Because I think there's always a small chance when you can't cast it that you could fail.
Right. It's something like you make a ability check with your spell casting ability, and the DC is like the spell's level plus something, or yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I know. I've got it in my little DM notes here under spell scrolls. I just found it. Yeah, so for a fifth level spell, you're looking at a DC 17 Arcana check, basically. Wait, that doesn't even look right. 10 plus the spell's level should be 15. Why does it show 17?
I'm pretty sure it's a fifth level spell, right?
Yeah, it's not even an Arcana check either, so it's really just a intelligence check. I guess the save DC on the spell is the 17. The DC to cast it is 15.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I guess yeah. If it comes up like there just comes up a situation where we think it could be helpful, maybe you'll have to decide whether it's worth risking not being able to cast it. But
Yeah, and that's part of what I really meant with Dream is that's one of those spells where now that you have it, that can be as epic as like the first person to ever decide to turn a portable hole and put it into a bag of holding and create a nuclear weapon. Like Dream is one of those things where like when it comes time to use it, you can completely make or break a campaign, or you could just do nothing of any importance at all.
yeah, yeah.
Like Dream is one of my favorite spells to use with NPCs because it's basically a communication spell. Um, I feel like Dream is the heart of what the inverted pyramid from Tolis does, and that's actually what I've like stolen from Tolis for like Akalos is just going to become my like wizard salesman across all of my campaigns. He's just going to be essentially like a traveling wizard that he kind of exists in all of these different locations. And it's like precisely under this idea that he's like in all of these different places because his tower is not there, and he like delivers stuff through dreams. So you like negotiate a price, you give him the money, and then the next time you sleep, he'll deliver the item to you. And it's a really cool twist on again why I think it's dream is that they basically show up inside of your dream, give you the magical weapon, and then when you or the magical item, and then when you wake up the next day, like you just have this item with you like physically.
Oh yeah, okay, yep. Now I remember. Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, the inverted pyramid is definitely, and technically speaking, I guess it's kind of a spoiler to say it's the inverted pyramid because it's technically another group, but it is quite literally them.
I'm back, by the way. I don't not sure, but I said a little.
Excellent. So if everybody is all set, I believe we just had Fen do a survival. You all are kind of pushing off into the tundra to the west northwest of Bryn Shindar, and I just wanted to kind of confirm with you all what your thoughts were on how you wanted to find the bell. What is your idea traveling across the tundra here while you all head in that direction? Kind of, are you trying to make good speed? Are you trying to travel safe rather than like be slower and be a little safer? What kind of thoughts do you all have going as you, not that 10 towns offers much safety anymore, but as you leave 10 towns and you push off into the tundra?
I think slower and safer is going to be our best bet unless something changes and we need to make haste.
If this works for all of you, we can make the coast in perhaps 3 days without putting ourselves at nearly any risk, and be able to safely have the early morning to search for. I think you guys described it as the actual bell for her to recognize what the situation is. But effectively, she'll kind of like bring that up. Like, if we take extra time and we go extra slow, we should be able to safely travel within the blizzard, using it both as shelter as well as making our way without any issues. I think you all would recall that the idea of how Helka found it was to head well in one direction and then backtrack across the coast. Are you all doing that? Or are you trying to head straight for where you think it is?
Realistic thinking might help to try to head straight from where we think it is, where we last remember seeing it.
Because I guess I guess we wouldn't really know where it is because like looking at the map, I'm thinking like if we try to head essentially straight north from Bremen till we hit the coast and then follow the coast along. But I guess based on where we left with Helka, we probably don't actually know that much that like whether Bremen is to the west or the east of where we found it. Um,
Then it seems like straight north would be the straightest distance to the shore as opposed to going east.
Gotcha. So head straight north. Once you all hit the sea of moving ice, you will effectively go west and use that as your guarantee not to miss the bell.
yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know if we have another really. We don't have like a landmark really that we know the location of that we could head for. So to be safe, I think yeah. I mean, we know it's along the coast, right? So and we think it's I think it probably we know enough that it's probably to our west from where we are now. So that makes sense to me. Just head straight north and then kind of follow along, make our way back down along the coast.
Yeah. And again, part of why I push towards that's what Helka used to show you is to basically also say if you guys fail the DC of your last survival, you're going to arrive at the coast and you're basically going to be looking up and down the coast. And at that point, it is 50-50. If you head west, you might find Angajuk's Bell. If you head east, you might find Angajuk's Bell. But if you head straight for it, you have no guarantee which way you're going to go. If you head well to the east of it by going directly north, you pretty solidly know that there's only going west along that coast. And that's where like the guarantee is. Takes longer off the bat, but it allows you to get there without a problem. So
Uh,
I go ahead.
Oh, just gonna ask. That sound good to you, Rashad? Alexis?
Yes, this sounds good to me right now. Hopefully, we really make good time with it.
So I think with the first night pushing out of Bremen, not going for a full like 25-mile day. I think doing like 15 or 17-ish kind of. You all can follow the coast of Mer Dualden as it's effectively heading north. Getting battered a little bit more by the actual winds coming over the lake is certainly insufferable for many reasons, but it's little more than what is kind of expected from this land and how much the environment is torturous. You will eventually come to the initial kind of copses of trees, and I would say that's probably where you will find that first day is well finished. There will be times where you might stop a little bit more to be cautious about hearing other things inside of the blizzard, but all in all, that day is going to pass without you all actually recognizing much of anything happening. Let me get a round of perceptions at disadvantage when you get to this first copse of trees. So when you all get into this round of trees and you find your initial moment to kind of relax and perhaps prepare for your first moment to allow yourselves to kind of break this day of travel and start to relax into what will be your night here. You are going to pick up the signs of something traveling nearby you all. You are going to hear the occasional kind of like heavy footfalls in the snow, sounds of something shuffling through the actual ice nearby to the southwest of you. So almost as if it is now behind where you are coming from when you get into these trees. And with that, I'm about to drop you on a map, and I want you to place yourselves in this tree line.
Should I be actually like more in the trees themselves, or does it matter?
For what it's worth, like, I wouldn't consider this like a trail through the trees so much as this is almost like a clearing inside of that small little like grouping of trees. So as far as that would be, I would say you're far closer to like preparing camp being there. But again, that's where I was kind of describing you all. I 100% feel like that's a perfect spot to start yourself.
Gotcha. Okay. And this would probably be Brennick's second round of mage armor, right? Because we're pretty late in the day.
Yeah, this would be towards evening, so yeah, I would definitely say you're probably, what is it? We started you at 7 in the morning. That goes till 3 in the afternoon. So 3 till 9 p.m. Wait, that's the wrong math. 3 to 11 p.m. Yeah. So you're probably like midway through that second round of mage armor.
Okay, but I guess then I forgot to mention it, but I guess when we took our short rest in the ruins, I could have.
Yeah, if you want, you can only do that once a day though, right?
Yeah, when I finish it has to be after you finish a short rest.
So where that falls is, I would say, be far more weary about whether you really want to be using that. Now that you actually have some levels to you, I think you can recover up to half your levels with that, no higher than level 6. So I think at this point, can't you recover a level 4 spell if you were to use it and then short rest?
I think I could still only do up to 3 since I'm only a level 6 wizard because I
Okay, that
have
one rounds down. Oh, I got you. I forgot your multi-class.
yeah, I got the one in rogue, and I think it does round down, so I would have to be level 8 before I could do fourth. But I see your point. Like maybe not use it now because I can only get one back of 3. Maybe wait, and I
Oh,
don't,
you don't even have 4th level spells right now, do you? Are you still
no,
only 3rd level? Okay.
yeah, I think it's 7th level we get 4th level spells, and ninth level
Yeah.
is 5th.
I completely forgot that Brannick was part rogue as well. Felixus, can you place yourself on that map for me, please?
She's kind of like behind this tree, underneath behind it. But I did not actually place it to make it look like that.
All right, that's interesting. My token is not the creature that I expected it to be.
I was actually about to ask, what are these?
Oh, that's Valine and her kobolds. Somebody's got to rep the kobold life. Valine's all about it. Yeah, so as you all are hearing this creature kind of ruffling through the snow, you're going to see the first signs of like one of the kobolds kind of like snapping to attention, looking to the southwest as Fen and Velixis look down. You are going to see massive antlers that are far larger than any given one of your bodies combined are kind of like being thrown through the snow, and you see this massive creature that stands on all four legs. Its back is almost 8 or 10 feet off the ground, probably weighing in at a ton or two. This is a moose. It is the size of a semi truck, and it has jet. Nope, jet is black. Um, Opal white hair. Means nothing to your characters, but I think Justin was around to actually know what this is.
Yep.
And for some reason, instead of a moose, I had a polar bear on the token. So when I made it large and visible to myself, I'm like, that's not supposed to be a polar bear. It's supposed to be the jaws of moose or mice. And let's go for initiative. Ooh, it's a hell of a round. So I think it's safe to say, Fen, you are going to be the first to react in this situation, as the moose is kind of ruffling through the snow near you all, and you start to see the size of this creature. You've already heard Velixis talk about perhaps bringing a sacrifice of flesh to this whale. What would you like to do?
And it's just walking through the forest.
Effectively, yeah.
I would like to defer my turn until after Brannick.
All right, you can hold an action if you would like, but you can't like hold your turn.
Okay. Could I ask a short question during that time also, or would that be an action?
Depends what you're thinking. Technically, like 6 seconds of conversation is your free action, so you have a little bit of time to speak.
Okay, then I'll pull the bow and hold the fire. And if I have time, I'll ask if this would make a suitable sacrifice or not before firing.
Gotcha. So at present, you are looking for a response from the rest of the party as to whether you all plan to take this beast.
Correct.
I think Valine is going to follow suit. You are going to see as she very lightly beneath her breath is starting to chant, and she already has a sign of having those skeletal arms that are kind of reaching out just above her arms. As Fen is looking over towards Brennick for this response, Valine is going to almost look like she has 4 arms, and they're just kind of like almost like the way you like flex for your, oh man, what is that, like when you're doing like a little bicep curl? I feel like her arms are like in that kind of shape where she's like flexing them into fists. As she finishes, these skeletal hands are starting to hold back and they pull into a fist, and you just see as this like dark black like smoke is almost like boiling from these hands as they like stand there, and she too is kind of like looking for a response from Brennick. I think that is sufficient where we can say it would be on Brennick.
Okay, and I think so. Has Brannick seen the creature now? Because I don't think he noticed it at first. Like he heard the sounds, but
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I gave you all seeing it. As far as things go, like you guys were effectively kind of pointing it out as you recognize it.
gotcha. Okay. So I think Brannick is kind of as Fen is like kind of readying his bow, and he hears like Valine start chanting under his breath. He's gonna like he's moving, and he's kind of like as he's passing by, he's like spotting the it's the giant moose or whatever. It's like I think that seems like it would make a uh, fine offering. And as he's saying that, he's simultaneously as he's like kind of like he starts moving, turns towards the creature, sends out his hand, and you'll see like a little tiny uh, mote of fire start shrieking towards it as he casts firebolt at the moose.
Gotcha. So at this point, let's get an arrow from Fen, and Valine is going to release her um, chill touch. So yeah, looks like we're going to have the firebolt, the arrow, and the chill touch all hitting for 19. And I think I'm a D8. 2D8. And 6. So 25 damage to it. And that's going to take us, I think, to it. My bad, I forgot I need to still set up the actual decks for the kobolds as well. So the moose is going to charge towards Fen. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is going to, let's see, pierce out with its antlers. With a 13 is a big ol' miss. And then it is going to try to stamp you with its hooves. And a 14 is a miss. I think if it hits. Yep. So it will go to Velixis.
All right, so Willis just kind of reached out and she just see what is it? She's gonna cast magic missile towards the creature at his legs, attempting to make it less mobile.
What level are you using?
Level 2.
Gotcha. So you can roll 5d4. Guys are going to watch as the kobold that's kind of just between Velixis and the moose kind of like leaps out with its javelin and just kind of like rolls into the snow as it is going to miss. The 5 little points of light are going to smack into the moose for another 17 damage. And then one more of these little kobolds is going to charge forward and leap out for an attack. Solid with the crit. And it's going to do 7 more damage. And that's going to take us to Fen. What would you like to do as this moose has run you down? The kobolds are leaping on top of it, and your friends are all bringing down their magics. What would Fen like to do?
I'm gonna drop the bow and sheath the sword and attack.
Two solid hits. Anything else from you?
And then I'm going to do a defensive maneuver here and use a key for a patient defense. So dodge.
Gotcha. At this point, you all can see multiple points where this creature is indeed bloodied, and it's gonna go to Valine. She's already beginning to cast the same spell again, where her skeletal arms are forming. She's going to kind of step back as she reaches out to extend these out to the creature, and should get a solid hit. And she's going to do 6 more damage as they blast into it. And that will take us to Brennick.
All right, so Brannick is like as the moose is charging in, attacking Fen. Brannick's trying to like essentially kind of circle around it, so he's still moving. Um, and then he's going to kind of turn again, and he's going to loose another fire bolt at it.
So that one's going to go wide, probably blasting into one of those little trees covered in snow. Little bit of a sizzle, and it's going to go out.
Yeah, I feel like he like kind of as he's turning, he slips on the ice a bit, and it throws his aim off, and it goes, yeah. That's it for Brannick.
Another kobold rushing up to leap in on the moose. Big ol' miss as it splashes down into the ground. And I think with this, the moose is going to kind of stamp its feet, and you all are going to see as its mouth begins to move. Why are your people always killing us? I submit. Please leave here. Leave me. Two of the kobolds are going to leap on top of it. One of them is going to be pretty successful, bringing its spear down and into the creature. And then it will go to Velixis. What would you like to do?
Willis is all too stunned, right?
I lost you at 2 stunned, right? I don't know if you continued to speak or if you were thinking.
Oh,
Are you
no, basically, okay, yeah, it's coming up now. No, what I was saying is that Valencius doesn't do anything. She's too stunned by the creature speaking, asking why we always killing them, and she's kind of at a loss for words, wondering what's going on, and she just looks over in everyone else's direction.
Gotcha. So are you at so much of it as a loss that you are not taking any action? Are you at enough of a cognizant point where you are dodging? Are you holding an action? Where do you think Velixis is on like that scale of how stunned are you?
She takes no action. Her eyes kind of like her pupils kind of dilate, and it's almost like she's surprised that this creature started talking to them mid fight rather than saying something ahead of time. So no, she's done. She's taking no action.
Gotcha. That is going to take us to another kobold is stabbing out at it. And then it's going to go to Fen. What would you like to do, Fen?
Fen, who is surprised as well that this creature has spoken, would wave off and communicate. We're sorry. We're not like the other men. I've traveled enough to know that you are quite rare. We didn't know that you could speak.
My bad. I already kind of forgot, like, the idea that it was stopping was it holding its action. So the first of the kobolds that tried to attack it, it definitely bashed and has knocked that, like, zombie back to the ground. But you can certainly say those things. Are you moving or taking any action?
No, I'm just stopped in my tracks and kind of raised the other hand as in a hold fashion.
Yeah, so that one isn't even like all that fucked up. You see as it's like damaged by the moose's attack, but it seems to be holding on. um Valine is going to step forward, and with her kind of command, the kobolds are all going to kind of like step back away from the moose, still kind of spears at hand, but she'll kind of look to it and just kind of like holds their attention. And it will go to Brennick.
Yeah, so Brannick similarly surprised as he hears the creature speak, and he kind of instinctively looks first towards Fen as he seems to be kind of waving off and seeing the kobolds kind of backing away, and um, the moose not immediately, I guess, striking out at them as they're doing so. He's going to kind of like narrow his eyes. He's still suspicious, but he's starting to move back towards the others here, and he's going to like looking towards the moose. He's going to say, "How did you? How is it you can speak?" And otherwise, he's just kind of like still in like a um, kind of ready position to move in case of some kind of trick. So he's taking the dodge action.
So I think as the moose starts to act, you'll see as it kind of like leans forward onto its front hooves and kind of lowering its head. It's going to resemble a bow as its antlers kind of like almost flank on either side of Fen as it kind of bows towards him. And then it's going to start to stand back up, a little bit shaky on its legs, definitely still like gushing blood from some of its wounds, and kind of looking across you all. And it will kind of look around and punished many of your kind for your arrogance. You seem different. Perhaps destruction of the dragon has done you well. And with that, because it is still kind of in combat, we'll kind of rotate around to Velixis doing anything. If not, that kind of gets us out of combat as everybody. Oh, don't hear you at all if you were saying anything, Rashad.
You know what? I pushed the button on my computer to talk and not on my phone. I was there. I'm responding to the creature. The destruction of what? The dragon? Which dragon? And she just kind of moves closer so that she can hear.
So, assuming that everybody is done with kind of initial thoughts of combat, it's like little like speaking to Fen is going to roll into it. It looks over towards Brennick and kind of doing a similar motion where it bows its antlers down. And while Brennick isn't nearly as close, it kind of like each of them is kind of focused on both sides of you. And you can kind of see that this is definitely an intelligent creature beyond just the ability to speak. And it's going to look to you and servant of Auril was kind enough to give me speech. Ravison asked me only that I punish the people of Lonelywood for their crimes, destroying our trees. And kind of looking over towards Felixus with the same sort of bow. There's going kind of horizontal to the ground. The dragon destroyed all of Lonelywood. And it kind of thinks, and it almost struggles for a moment. 2 cycles of the light. Lonelywood is destroyed. I believe I am free of the service of Ravison. Free to live my life.
This Ravison, say he's a servant of Oral. Do you know where he is now? Have you kept in contact with him?
Ravison travels. It was her duty to serve Harl. I understand only that her gift was in service of no. I have not seen her. And again, it's going to kind of struggle for a moment. Many cycles of the light. And as it kind of looks up, many more of the white darkness. Ravison came, and then she left.
And now that Lonelywood is destroyed, what will you do?
I would live life suited to me. The humans leave me, will be peaceful. If you come to destroy my forest, I will defend it. And kind of like looking to the side of its body with my life.
Right. We'll kind of give a small nod at that, and fair enough. And then he'll look towards Felixus and Fen.
It is best for nature to be allowed its own course, free of meddling of men.
Roll a persuasion. Ravison would like you. And I think with that, it's going to kind of lay at the feet of Ben. And like even now, its antlers kind of stand, like laying its head like on the ground, like in between its paws, like its hooves. Its antlers stand almost as tall as like any given one of you, certainly over all of the kobolds. Any other thoughts at the present moment as you all are looking over this creature before you?
So Brannick is going to he's going to ask the moose. He's going to try and kind of describe what a dwergar would be like, kind of like the more like the kind of gray skin color, and maybe like try to like kind of like showing like shorter than I am, and try to like essentially asking it, has it seen any of these types of creatures in its forest recently? Kind of, or like kind of, or to the north of us, like.
Takes a few moments to like try to like think and really take in your description. But as it's kind of like mulls over things, it doesn't seem to be connecting the dots, and it'll kind of like look to you and I've seen no gray skinned humans who walk these lands. When the dragon destroyed your towns, they all fled to the other side of our waters. I came here to be free of those who traveled there.
Uh,
Go ahead. What were you thinking, Felixis?
Icky's gonna. I was asking if he was the only one that's given the gift of speech, or was there any others like him given this gift?
Or none like me. And you'll see like a certain sadness in its eyes. I think you guys well know that that is not true.
And just out of character for a second, did I mistakenly hear him say earlier the dragon was destroyed or the dragon was destroying?
The dragon destroying the towns.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I was double checking.
Yeah, I think what you probably heard was that Lonelywood was destroyed by the dragon. And that's why it came here, because if Lonelywood was destroyed, it no longer owes anything to Ravison.
Right. Then Fen would say, Rise, great one, and be free. Live the remainder of your years as you see. Go in peace.
So when the moose said, when the moose answered Velixis saying there were none like it, were we, I don't know how to read a moose's facial features, but like, do we get any sense whether we think maybe it was lying or maybe it's just unaware of other creatures? Like, are we able to tell? Does it seem to be trying to be deceptive?
You can roll an insight. As far as its general expression, it was definitely sad when it was answering Felixis. So, regardless of what you roll, it is expressing a pretty high level of like loneliness. Yeah, I don't think you're really going to pick up anything else. But I think that's a pretty solid example for you that it's not that more speaking creatures don't exist, it's that this thing has no clue that they exist.
Right. And it could also be thinking like when it says like me, it could just be speaking more, not speaking creatures, but there's no other talking moose.
Exactly. That is the same idea as far as like you as players go. uh Everybody should understand that there's not simply a druid, but there are multiple druids that are around 10 towns. All of them are certainly like acolytes of Auril, and part of what they have been doing has been turning these animals into maybe agents of chaos, in that they make them intelligent and kind of set them down to torture the actual peoples. Um, yeah, I guess none of you are aware of the wolves. So it's really just kind of your individual encounters with some of the actual druids. But in the long run, yeah, like this creature effectively has not met any other ones. As far as it goes, it certainly has not met another moose that is like it.
Yeah, so as like Fen is telling it to rise, Brannick might if he can try and interject and like ask, if I might one more question. Are you happy with this gift Avison gave you?
I have feared that if I did not serve Ravison, she would take what she has given. I cannot guess what it would be like to be as I was. And you can kind of see as it's like lost in some pretty higher level thought, trying to decide whether it's better to be a pig and ignorant of the world about, or intelligent and fully conscious of how horrible that is.
Yeah, so Brannock will give another nod, and then he'll fall silent again. He's kind of finished with his. That was his last question.
Bullock says once as I, if do you know what if you would lose? Do you know if you would lose your gift or not if the person was gone? If you got rid of the person for you?
I fear the gift being taken. A return to not knowing my world, freedom. And then as it kind of shakes its head, but I know nothing of how it works.
Bullock just kind of just sits and starts to think on what to do, or if there's any way that they can help the creature. She starts to sit and think about that.
So I think you kind of said it out loud at some point from Fen, and I think Brennick kind of mirrored it in his response afterwards. But at this point, the moose is going to kind of look towards Fen and say, I am Kane. You are welcome in my grove. But if you would stay here, I would stay with you. And kind of like, almost like pushing its chin up towards the sky with the new lights. We can part our ways.
We would be honored. This light you speak of is the aurora?
Roll an insight for me. It's difficult to figure out what lights it's talking about. Effectively, its only way of how it's mentioned, like a passing day, seems to be in recognition of the changes of the lights. And it seems to have a concept of the month based on how it described the changing of the like white light to, I think it was to Brennick before. But other than that, like I think you have a pretty solid understanding at this point that this creature doesn't really understand like the difference of the lights. They're all just light to it. But it's kind of like it's looking at you with a kind of confused look. Um, as far as things go, I'm kind of going underneath the um, assumption that this creature doesn't really see in color. So, like, the difference between the aurora and moonlight is not really different. It's far more similar. And I think it belies a little bit of the intelligence of this creature. It's intelligent, but it's also not that intelligent.
We would be honored to have you accompany us through your grove.
Perhaps we should, as I believe Kane is suggesting, make camp for the night and continue on our way with for passes for dawn.
Agreed. It'd be best to allow him to rest for a bit first before we continue. I would like to rest a bit of myself.
Yeah, so again, this was your destination for when you guys would be sleeping. It is effectively past the aurora disappearing and nearing, what's it, rising of the waxing moon. I think we've got you all on the 25th of Myrtle, so it's kind of a very small sliver of a moon at this point. It's a pretty dark night, and yeah, in general, the moose is well injured, and it's basically saying if you guys are staying here, you can stay with me, but it's more or less saying like this is where it's going to sleep as it tries to recover from these wounds.
Yeah, like I didn't get the sense that it's like it's not offering to like escort us through its grove. It's saying like, you can stay here if you want for the night, and then we'll, part ways in the morning. But it's gonna sleep here, and this is kind of we were getting ready to make camp. I think when it showed up in the um, so I would make sense to maybe just try and camp here, you know, um, and then continue on our way in the morning.
So, do you all have any other thoughts as to what you are doing this night?
Melissa asks, do we need to set up a watch while we're in a grove for the night? If so, then she said she could take the first watch.
And Brannick would caution like we shouldn't, even though we're in this forest, we should probably not try to gather any wood for a fire from any of these trees. Um, So maybe try and, if we have time to try and set up like a small like windbreak or something like that with some of the snow, but otherwise maybe keep a cold camp. And like in terms of the watch, he'll offer to take a second watch too.
The moose itself makes a pretty solid shelter. If you all lay close to it, its body is quite warm. You can certainly have it kind of lay to the northeast, and you all kind of stay to the southwest of it, and it breaks the wind from you as well as kind of gives you a little bit of its residual heat. If you were to attempt to build more structure around that idea, you can certainly try.
No, I think that makes sense. Brannick would just kind of like probably just try and use the like you said, use the moose's body, kind of move, near it, and yeah, that works for him.
So Felix is kind of sits nervous by at first, and she's kind of just watching around, and then she whistles and calls forth and calls kind of like a phantom dog nearby, and tells it to watch along with them, and to just whoever's on watch to make sure that they don't fall asleep, and to also look out with them as well.
What are you casting here?
Faithful Hound. I'm not doing the kind of like uh, calling it forth so it can watch with us.
So first watch was going to be Valixis. Who's taking second watch? Are you guys going to stand watches this night?
Yeah, Brannick offered to take the second watch.
Gotcha. And then Fen, do you want third watch or do you want to take fourth watch?
I'll take fourth.
Okay, so yeah, while Village is just watching, uh, she gets up and she's just walking around the area a little bit, and um, she does let the hound know. She does set a password for the hound, for to be just dried meats. Is the password that she sets with him, and as she continues to circle the area around, um, just making sure that everything's clear, and she listens to make sure that nothing's coming into the forest that doesn't seem like it should be there.
So, as you all go through your watches of this evening, the blizzard is going to continue. You're going to have everything kind of pass by seemingly uneventful. Nothing appears to happen at any given time. When Valine goes to wake Fen, and I want you to make a perception check at disadvantage. Actually, what's your passive? Your passive 17. Yeah. Um when Valine wakes you up, She seems bigger. She seems a little bit heavy-handed. She kind of like shakes you awake. What's your initial thought coming out of sleep? Seems like Valine's being a little bit rough.
You said she appeared larger?
Yeah, you can't quite place it, but first impression as you're waking up, it seems like Valine is like definitely bigger, almost as if you're like zoomed on to her.
Uh, is there something happening? Is it time for my watch?
Yes, it is time for your watch. You will should have no problem. There seemed to be nothing this evening.
Um,
Kind of pick up her voice is a little bit deeper.
seem Nothing seemed to happen. You appear to me to be slightly different than before.
Looking closer at her as you stand up, and she's kind of like standing and like almost hunching over to sit down. By the time she sits down with like her butt down to the actual snow, she's still almost as tall as you.
Uh, I don't understand. Is there an explanation for this? What has happened?
For 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 what? What explanation?
Uh, your outward appearance has definitely changed. Has something happened? Is anything amiss?
Roll a persuasion. She's going to kind of like stand up and approach almost side by side to you. And you're kind of like looking at her chest height, just straight across, and she's now like looking down at you. And you see this moment of like something kind of dawning on her, and I saw something strange. I thought it was exhaustion, an illusion playing tricks on me. Perhaps the magic is more powerful than I thought. And she's kind of like looking at the size of her hands and kind of like looking over everything, and it seems a little weird, and she doesn't know what to make of it.
What was it that you saw?
Little floating eyes, mouth, almost dancing. Almost their faces were dancing inside of their heads. It was very strange. I thought it was snow blindness. I thought it was exhaustion. Or an issue of everything happening. And something to recall. That she just kind of like holds a hand up towards one of your hands. And her hand is about like 1.5 times the size as yours right now.
Is she still getting larger, or
Make a perception check. Moment by moment, she doesn't seem to be getting larger.
how do you feel other than tired?
Kind of shaking her head. I feel fine. Nothing feels wrong.
Well, perhaps it would be best for you to get some rest while I finish the watch. What direction did you see these dancing lights?
She'll kind of like point to just like a little bit southwest of where the moose is. You can go over there. As far as things go, doesn't have to be any reason that you can't find that there are indeed like tiny little footprints, smaller than even like the nail of your pinky.
I'm going to wake up Brannick, and then Volexus afterwards, explaining to Brannick, filling him in on the recent events, and telling him about the set of tiny footprints to the southwest.
I don't think Brennick or Valixis would know what they are. Am I correct? I don't believe this group has come across Chwingas yet.
I I think maybe Carvath had at some point.
I was thinking perhaps Carvath. I know it was the other group, the original like party, who actually had charmed one of the Chwingas, but I don't actually remember if Carvath had.
Yeah, it might have even been what Sandoval, I think was the first guy's name. But I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure,
so
yeah, Brannick does not have any has not interacted with any.
yeah, so as he wakes the two of you up, you are basically going to experience like, yeah, Valine is like 6.5, 7 feet tall right now. She's massive. You can hear her voice is already a little bit lower. You can watch as she takes footsteps. The snow is compacting. She weighs a lot more. And you guys can see those tiny little footprints that Fen can point out to you. And other than that, Valine is kind of clueless as to why she doesn't really understand like what did it. She didn't really recognize it as anything really happening, other than she saw these kind of like incorporeal white faces that were kind of like whimsically dancing. And again, she kind of felt it was almost like a waking dream or like a almost like incursion of the Feywild kind of thing.
So I misspoke. We have actually had, well, maybe not an interaction, but when they created the ice sculptures of us.
Okay, that was of Brennick. So yeah, Brennick would recognize pretty quickly that they're describing a elemental creature. The description I think is satisfying enough to recognize that this is probably a Chwinga. Their like floating, dancing eyes and face, I think, is one of the biggest kind of clues what they are. Is it's almost like hypnotizing to watch as their eyes and their mouth like seems to bounce around.
Okay. Yeah. So in that case, Brannick would he would like tell the others. I think I've come across these creatures before. They be a bit mischievous, but I don't believe they mean any real harm. And he would, I can't recall if he actually. I think he knew what a Chwinga was after the ice sculpture. I think maybe he rolled for it and he figured it out. But yeah, essentially, whatever, however much he knows or think, if he can recognize these as likely Schwingas, he would kind of share, I guess, that much about them. I don't think he knows too much more.
Yeah, I don't remember that one in particular to know what I gave you. As far as it goes in general, I would say the most you all should really know is effectively that they are some sort of kind of like earth power, earth moat, earth elemental. Um, they are definitely something in between, kind of like a fey creature and like a servant of the earth. They are definitely like bored, whimsical, um, almost like entertained by people. You have a pretty solid understanding that they could just as easily have been basically fucking with Valine as much as just enjoying her company. But I think you guys can kind of pick up effectively while Valine was on watch. She saw all this happening and at some point sent over her kobolds and kind of had them like dancing around where the Chwingas were. And at some point, a Chwinga kind of walked up to her and kind of without her knowing, with a little touch, gave her this gift. And she has started to grow as far as things eventually kind of wind down. Over the next few hours, Fen, you will see as your watch ends, Valine has like grown past 7 feet into 8 feet, past 8 feet into 9 feet. As you all are waking up this next morning, Valine is going to be twice as tall as any of you. She is going to be just under 10 feet tall when everybody is waking up in the morning.
Oh my goodness. Who was that? As Alyssa just kind of wakes up and just and sees the back of Aline. She's like, "Wait, do we have someone that huge with us?" Just rubbing her eyes, trying to get a good look, trying to see if she's going crazy or whatnot, or if she's still asleep.
I believe Eileen may have been the subject of a bit of a trick by Schwinga.
But wait, what was the hound? The hound should have been what? Wait, there was no hostility. Ah, crap.
They're also tiny.
I don't think he would mean any harm. Just they're curious creatures, mischievous. Valine, aside from the obvious, kind of like raising his arm, kind of like to signify how tall she's grown. It's like you otherwise feel all right. I could try to reverse the situation if like. Can't be sure it'll work, but
If not, and also if not, worst case scenario, you're just gonna be size of a giant unless you're gonna continue to grow, in which case that might eventually become bad. But either way, I mean, if I wouldn't take longer to reach destinations now, you could just one step, two step, and then you're there.
So I think in waking up, one of the things that's going to happen is Valine's going to kind of like brace herself against a tree at some point and just completely rip the tree out of the ground. Probably break it off at the ground, like permafrost wise. And kind of like with a little bit of embarrassment, look towards Kane and kind of quickly, my apologies, Kane. I didn't. I. And she's just going to like close her fist around the tree as the tree is just going to kind of like shatter in her hand. I am stronger than I thought. And then I think she's going to kind of stand, and you'll see as even as she stands, she's going to sink deeper in the snow than any of you kind of really like would expect to be possible. And there's going to come a point where she's going to kind of like take a knee and just with her fist push down into the snow. I guess not with her fist, like with an open palm, push down into the snow. And she's going to look towards Brennick. This may be a problem. I'm getting heavier. I don't know if your whale friend could carry me to the island.
Bernica kind of like seeing as she's like sinks down, like kind of nod at that, and isn't it? I think it might be it would be a bit slow going in your current state even to get there. I imagine it's would wear off after some time, but I can't be sure. I can, as I said, try to see if I can dispel these effects, but I can't promise it'll work.
Then we'll ask Kane, do you have any dealings with such creatures in your grove?
So I think you guys can sufficiently confuse Kane enough with the description. Um, for time's sake, you can take some time to then try to remedy it by describing Chwingas, and continue to find Kane doesn't seem aware of them. As far as what you all can kind of pick up is part of what Chwingas do is they're very much opposite to a druid. They are nature spirits, and they are in general kind spirits that you would think would be interesting to druids and a creature like Cain, but they are fascinated by human creations. So their messing with humans tends to be because somebody is showing them something that they've never seen, something that is not natural, something that is an artifact of humanity or an artifact of culture. So they're very much a different kind of creature, and Cain has no experience with them.
Melissa kind of looks over at Brennick and Finn. We can't very much stall too long, and so there may be someone who I don't imagine that knows how to reverse this, but right now I don't really have a way to reverse it. I can't imagine either of you have a way right now immediately to undo this.
I think in response to Brennick looking to you, I think she at present is opposed to trying to break the magic. Um, Her present state is a twist between I'm not sure if this is going to be useful or if this is going to be problematic.
So Brannick will kind of nod and defer. And then he's thinking of the uh figurine that the bugbear chieftain, like how big is she does actually he hasn't used it yet, so he doesn't actually know what it does. Um Never mind. Yeah, but he'll
Uh,
defer to her.
I think by having a magical item on some level, you gain the understanding of what it is. Just like that's part of like attuning to them. You don't necessarily learn about like curses and bad stuff or all of the stuff that's involved, but like the general idea of what an item does is part of what you learn more or less over that time that you attune. It's often like a studying kind of like it's a weird thing because we humans don't have magic, but I feel like that's kind of like the way to describe it. Like same way the scroll takes a short rest to really understand its intricacies, magic items are the same thing how their attunement works.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so if he thinks it might be something that she could like ride that might prevent her from sinking into the snow with every step, he would um offer to let her ride that for a bit, see if maybe if the at least until this wears off, if it might wear off soon.
What was it that you actually have though? It's the
Uh
elk
goat of
or
goat of
goat?
traveling. Although I think it was actually a bear figurine, but it was
Ivory goat. Oh yeah, the figurine might be different, but the ivory goat is what the magical item is.
right. Yeah,
Was that your gift from the Twingas? What was that from?
that was from the bugbear after the bugbear leader when we
Oh,
got,
okay. Gotcha.
and
I
I
was just
gave.
thinking about that the other day too, because I was like, whatever happened to that thing?
Yeah, because I gave the after we we fought and then we kind of camped together and came to like a truce kind of thing. So I that's actually when I gave the bugbear the ice sculpture of Brannick's face that the Schwingas had made, and then in return we got the figurine. I just um,
I think she already dwarfs a giant goat. I think a giant goat is vaguely like horse sized.
it's a large creature, yeah.
Yeah. So she is already on the verge of being a huge creature.
Gotcha. So like so he would realize that that's probably not going to work. So he wouldn't bring that up.